Hello my friends, this is a very important Flamingo FP-5 missile strike that happened in Samara region early morning. It touched a very sensitive Russian space infrastructure of the Russian Progress enterprise that is producing missiles which are being used to deliver analogs of the Starlink satellites to the orbit. I am speaking about the Russian Rosvet program.
Слышишь?
Yeah, this is the video from the place, filmed by Russians. I'm gonna turn off the volume. And for you just to see, there were two of the Flamingo missiles which hit it really precisely. This is the result. And we already have the confirmation from Cyberborishno. They analyzed all of the videos from the place and they might state that the building 106A was hit and probably 106B. And those are the buildings where Russia assembles electronics, microschemes and wiring for their missiles. So even if they can produce missiles themselves, without electronics they will not fly. Here we have the video of the night launch of those Flamingo missiles. Just two were shown, but Russians are telling, like official Russian air defense, they're mentioning that they've shot down 17 of Ukrainian FP-5 Flamingo missiles, which is, I believe, not true. And the Russian military bloggers commented this information from the official defense ministry of Russia. We don't recall the enemy ever launching more than 6 Flamingo missiles in a single salvo before. So either the Ukrainian forces managed to stockpile 24 of missiles, including a couple that reached Samara enterprise, and the rest 17 of the missiles were repelled by the Russian air defense, or someone is fabricating virtual missiles for reports. I would bet for the second variant. Even Russians themselves are saying like that. 17 missiles, I also haven't seen that. But the Russian A-50 AVAX airplane, you see it's with a plate on the top, it was really flying. This video was filmed early morning. The surveillance plane like that may trace the missile with a range of 400 kilometers up to 500. And the plane transfers the information to the Russian air defense, to the Russian fighter jets, and that's how they shut down Ukrainian FP-5 Flamingos. Unfortunately, it's still like a big, fat, visible target. Well, Ukraine also experiments with Flamingo missile, launching it at a very low altitude, changing directions, new routes, and so on. But the result is there, yeah, so Flamingo is not useless completely. Some percentage of those missiles is reaching the target, which is great, because the missile is definitely devastating. I wonder just about the Kerch Bridge, because Samara region is really far away from Ukraine, hundreds of kilometers, but Kerch Bridge is way closer. Maybe Russia still has an advanced air defense close to the Kerch Bridge, even from the Russian side, and Ukraine gradually disables more and more air defense systems, and now it's impossible for Ukraine to reach and kaboom this supply connection. Or maybe it's just not yet willing of Ukraine, or maybe Ukraine was told by allies not to kaput the Kerch Bridge because it might influence some of the negotiations, you know, this do not escalate policy. So yeah, it's like that. Kerch Bridge is there, it is reachable with Flamingo missiles. Yeah, of course, not all FP-5 missiles might do it, they will be shut down on the way, but if Ukraine has 20 of those missiles, for example, and launches those right away at the same time, I believe that many will reach the target. And now more about this Progress enterprise that was flamingoed early morning. So you see that they are producing some of the missiles, like Soyuz, I think it's 21B version, which they use to launch basically those Rosvet systems, those satellites, the analogs of the Starlink. And Putin said multiple of the times that Russia is working on the solutions to get on Starlink, or he says better than Starlink system. Yeah, of course, Russian Rosvet will not be better than that, but they're using those smaller variants of the missiles for those specific missions. And this was the place where the components, very sensitive components for missiles production, were located. Yeah, here Stonenko also confirms that Russia is boosting the production of those satellites and also their launches to the space. So as for March 2026, there are 16 satellites, which provide also the coverage over Ukraine for a couple of hours a day, and that might open the eyes for Russia to act with the controlled drones far behind the front lines, with the long-range strikes, with the mid-strikes. That is what Ukraine does, actually operating in occupied regions of Ukraine. But Ukraine doesn't have the permission to act with the Starlink on Russian territory, because Elon Musk is against it. But Russia might have this advantage over Ukraine potentially, maybe even next year, 2027, because they plan to launch 292 satellites, and that might cover all of the Ukrainian territory, maybe for entire day, so 24/7. And Russians are even going ahead of the plan to launch those satellites. And this information is not coming from Russian side, actually. Those are the Ukrainian officials. A deputy of the head of the Ukrainian military intelligence mentioned about it around 1 month ago, that it is the new type of the threat from Russians, and how to deal with that. Starting the space war is not an option. Ukraine doesn't have the tools for that, and Russia also might escalate. So the only variant is maybe to hurt those Russian communication facilities, missiles and satellite production factories. But for that, you need to use some of the big things like FP-5, for example. Or Ukraine is working to produce ballistics like FP-7, FP-9, which is very hard to intercept. I mean, in general, ballistic missiles. But again, it's the race. By the time Ukraine is capable to produce those ballistic missiles massively, and it is planned for the next year, Russia may already have established its own satellite control over Ukraine. And that could happen as early as the next year. But of course, with today's strike, Russian satellite Rassvet program will be postponed. It is understandable. And as we know, Russia is under sanctions, so for them to import electronics, it's kind of the hard task. My friends, an important reminder, please press your like to this video just right now while you're watching it, and also subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to reach 1 million subscribers, hopefully this year. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But thank you so much for likes and subscriptions. It is very important. And also, guys, if you really want to support my job and to make it possible, you're very welcome to join my Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below, or join membership of YouTube channel by pressing button join. Thank you, guys. You're just amazing. And let's continue with the video. And this is the alleged route of the Ukrainian Flamingo missiles. They were launched from the Kharkiv region, and there were shutdowns, maybe one or more missiles near Voronezh and also near Saratov. But 2 missiles made it to the target, according to our information. But we're not saying about 17 missiles that Russia officially mentioned, no. Analysts like Max26 says that 1 was shot down near Voronezh, 2 more near Saratov, and 2 reached the target, so totally 5 missiles. 3 shot down, 2 made it. I would say the result is quite good, judging on the fact that FP-5 is one of the cheapest cruise missiles ever made, and also one of the most powerful. But also very vulnerable to the Russian air defense because of its size and construction. And the night images show some of the kabooms happening in one of the Russian military airfields. It was probably visited by the drones. We also have this image showing that something is burning there. So Russia's Savalaika military airfield in Nizhny Novgorod. The base hosts MiG-31K aircraft capable of launching Kinzhal missiles. Yeah, MiG-31 is a very fast fighter jet. I think for now it's the fastest aircraft which is currently flying. Yeah, I hope we'll have more information about this case, because we have the evidence that something was burning on the ground and territory of this military airfield, but what exactly, it's hard to tell, so we'll have to wait for some time to definitely confirm. Oh no, guys, actually we have the confirmation, just look at this. Yeah, minus MiG-31, hooray, this is the Iranian-style confirmation. Well, there are multiple of the memes like that, because Zelensky attended one of the sport events, he was, pushing some of the iron, and he was also depicted like that, For me, it's, kind of silly PR, but anyways, there are lots of the memes. Like, for example, this one from the Lord of Rings. Yeah, just some of the grain of humor in our kind of the serious topic. And here you may see Russian coups, they have been re-established even in Moscow region, because Ukraine again exponentially increased the strikes on Russian refineries. Yeah, firstly, just watch this video. So, Bukhanka van is there. Again, Mad Max Fury Road style fight for fuel. Here they're dancing for extra liters of fuel. You cannot take this canister, lady, throw it away. This guy said that he ran out of benzene, so he got a couple of the bottles. I wonder if they refuel in those. Well, anyways, this is the transport. So the situation with the fuel in Russia, it is getting in general worse, but sometimes they have some of the white spots, you know. When Ukraine performs the series of the strikes on the Russian refineries, Russia reestablishes the logistics to obtain the fuel from other refineries, and Ukraine waits for it to work, and then it strikes again new refineries and new chains of the fuel supplies. Those pipelines, pumping stations, refineries, fuel storages, and after it there is one more break, waiting for Russia to reestablish new connections, and that's how it works. So exhausting Russian fuel system all the time. And yet, the last night there were no strikes on Russian refineries, but a few days ago there were consecutive, each night, strike after strike, and lots of the refineries, even far away, they were disabled. Some of the wrestling here. Yeah, this is happening. The fuel shortage in Russia hasn't been ended fully, no. It is escalating, and the fuel prices, they're going up. Well, they're going up elsewhere in the world, but in Russia especially. Not just the Strait of Hormuz matters here, but also Ukrainian kinetic sanctions. Alright, the NASA firm's fire detection satellites report about the kabooms happening in Balaklava. This is the Russian military base, not that far away from Sevastopol. Well, Balaklava itself is famous to be the base for the Soviet submarines, but it hasn't been used for this purpose since the Soviet Union collapsed. It was turned to museum, but maybe Russia refurbished it and started to use again as the military infrastructure. But also there is on-top base Russian military that is on fire just this morning. And also we have the confirmation, some of the photo taken by eyewitness and shared on Krymsky Veter, so Crimean Wind Telegram channel. And this is the aftermath of one of the strikes happening in a Russian military airfield in Crimea, occupied territory. So they tried to hide something behind those nets, but it was hit after all. I think some of the equipment, maybe air defense systems, and those are the remains or parts of the Ukrainian drones. Not one, but many, you see. Ukraine launches those from the drone boats and just usual long-range strikes. Yeah, this is how it goes. Here's the Russian convoy that was also kaboomed. So nets, they do not help, but Russia continued to put those. Well, maybe against FPV drones, the smaller ones, it might save, but bigger drones, they easily penetrate nets, they're quite heavy. Is it a Coca-Cola water delivery here? You see how Russians put those nets on their cargo vessels, but it doesn't help that much. No, you need to put the mesh, like on top of the tanks, the hangar type of the ships. I'm sure we're gonna see those. Protection against the drones. Yeah, but this doesn't help. The most recent strike on the Russian energy infrastructure happened on August 14th. Ukraine's long-range sanctions demilitarized the stable gas condensate fractionation unit and the combined hydrocracking unit at Novatek Ust-Luga. This is the Leningrad Oblast, Russian Federation, very close to St. Petersburg. Yeah, sorry guys, it's like a few hours later. I didn't have the internet almost all the day. Yeah, so recording one more the continuation of the video with a different shirt already. And we have the new video published by the Firepoint company, how Flamingo missiles are taken off one after one. They're, I would say, potentially they're very capable, yeah, but they're very well tracked by Russian raiders. But the image is great. It will go for the thumbnail. It's kind of interesting. The New York Times came out with an article about Putin's ambitions to occupy Ukraine, and not only, as they say, in 2025, so at the very beginning of the previous year, Putin planned to destroy NATO and the EU from within somehow. Well, we know what forces are there in the European Union, which are really been sponsored by Russia, like for example Orban, that was laid off by his own people, and also quite popular party in Germany, AfD, which is openly pro-Russian. Yeah, mostly those are far right as usual or far left. In Poland, by the way, there is also Confederation Party. It is openly pro-Russian. They're calling Ukraine their enemy and they want to cooperate with Russia, and they have lots of the places in parliament. So this ugly prick and his circle Russian empire is sponsoring their influence in Europe, and that's why it's kind of hard also for Ukraine to get enough military support, because there are lots of the parties, they need to get the consensus on some of the questions, and Putin is using this bureaucracy and his influence to disturb the situation with the Ukrainian supplies. Yeah, Vladimir Putin gathered his military commanders for a briefing in late 2025, I thought it was at the beginning, and set a goal for 2026, the collapse of NATO and the European Union from within. You see, the New York Times report citing officials from 2 countries familiar with the details of the meeting. So it happened really. Moldova is central to those plans. According to newspaper sources, Western intelligence officials say the Kremlin top priority is subjugating Ukraine, followed by taking control over Moldova. So they want all Ukraine to occupy it partially, and to put the pro-Russian government to the rest of the territories. And Moldova is also like this sphere that Putin says is his. Yeah, Putin publicly criticized European leaders. It's understandable for stoking hysteria over the threat of the Russian attack. Also, by the way, the elections in Moldova, Russia tried to put their pro-Russian government there, but they failed with that mission. And they failed also in Hungary, so fantastic. And of course, Russia failed with Ukraine, NATO, European Union. It just shows that Putin lives in his bubble. Like, we're gonna destroy NATO in 1 year. And the European Union, come on. This is not how it works, even though we understand that Russia wants to destroy those institutions. But I would also say that the main threat for NATO is coming not from Russia, well, partially from Russia, yes, but also from the United States of America. You see those threats also to Greenland, a NATO member, also gradually lowering the capabilities of the joint forces of NATO on the European continent. The United States is doing it. Administration withdraws military personnel from Europe little by little, weakening the forces. So this is the real threat, what is happening. And also there is the threat, of course, from the Russian side with all of those provocations on the NATO territory and all of those drones. And by the way, yesterday, I guess one more drone went to Romania. It's already usual. So you see those Putin's plans. It's not Donbass. Donbass, he doesn't need it. Why would he need ruined territories? Flatlined completely by aviation strikes, artillery and so on. It's useless. Those who say that Putin might stop occupying Donbass, no, he is not going to stop. His goal is to occupy Ukraine, partial at least, and to put puppet government, as I told you. And moreover, further than Ukraine, he wants Moldova, he wants Baltic countries, and he wants also to spread the influence further. Like, for example, it was the demand from the Russian side back in 2021 for NATO to withdraw till some of the borders, to get out from Poland, Romania, Hungary, So those negotiations about Donbass, they're useless. They're just down to brainwash Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was happy to believe in that fairy tale. Because he likes dictators. He posted this thing today on his Trump Truth Social. Kim Jong-un and I get along great. Yeah, you always get along great with dictators, Donnie, because you wanna be dictator yourself, but dictators are just using you because you are a stupid freaking prick. By the way, this humiliation happened 1 year ago. A spirit of encourage, yes. And is there something better since that time? No. The war is escalating even more. According to United Nations official reports, this year in Ukraine there is the record number of the civilian losses, and not everything goes to that statistics. So the strikes are escalating, Ukrainian ports are being blocked, Russian ships are being kaboomed, front lines are not moving, but there are also tremendous losses. What did Trump resolve? What has he resolved? Nothing. Absolutely. It was just pure humiliation of the United States of America, first of all. This carpet to Putin and blah, blah, blah about nothing burger. But it was enough to convince Donny to press Ukraine for capitulation from Donbass. Well, luckily Ukraine showed that it is not ready to capitulate, and there are no conditions for that. If you check out the movement of the front line, actually nothing is happening. Just the fight, everything is boiling, but Russia is moving really slowly. And there are no Russian forces occupying main cities of Ukraine as Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, and Lviv. So it's the stupid thing to force Ukraine for something by the time Russia is not able physically to reach its military goals in Ukraine. An interesting photo was filmed today in Bulgaria. They still have Russian-affiliated Lukoil, you see, Lukoil Corporation. It works perfectly fine on territory of NATO, of EU, like even under sanctions it seems like. But the thing that the refined products, Jet A aviation fuel, is being refueled to Ukrainian airplane Antonov 124 Ruslan that delivers weaponry to Ukraine. Well, not directly to Ukraine, there is the hub in Poland, but after all, weapons go to Ukraine by railway transport or by trucks. Oh, Kellen Robertson, a friend of the channel and my friend, he took an interview with Fedorov. Fantastic! I think it's the first interview like that, and I wonder if he would speak English or again we'll see subtitles. Kellen's interview with Magyar went really viral. I hope it will be the same, like more than million views. I'm like this Baba Vanga Nostradamus saying that more than million it will be. This is super, and the quality, just look, all of those lights, like this is fantastic. The picture is amazing, and I'm waiting, yeah. Fedorov will tell us more information about his dismissal and about threats for Ukraine, especially Rossvet. This is the analog of Starlink, and we know that Fedorov is communicating with Elon Musk still. He wants to, not to push Elon Musk, but to convince him to help Ukraine on the Russian territory, to open this connection, to use Starlink antennas over Russia. Officially it is forbidden for Starlink, but there could be some of the variants, and I hope that Fedorov will manage to convince Elon after all. Yeah, fantastic. Kellen told me that he's going to take this interview, but that fast. Kellen, you are superb, you know, you are the great guy. On the fields with those personalities, with his example, he shows that being an independent journalist is a fantastic thing. Yeah, he still depends on something, but not on big corporations, just viewers and his Patreon supporters. That's why, guys, it's very important to support creators whom you like to watch, yeah, for them to do fantastic stuff. And yeah, Kellen, you are fantastic. I know that you watched this video. You are a great guy. So guys, subscribe for Kellen Robertson. You see, he already made the interview with Magyar. It's here, 1.3 million views. This interview, yeah, and there are subtitles, and still people watch because they want to know what is it like Crimean operation, mid strikes, long range strikes. So the big corporations, they didn't have this access, but Kellen Robertson managed to get it. He's really into it, you know. Yeah, really proud that I know him. Also, he is helping Ukraine with this support donations with NAFO for the trucks, as we did before. Great guy. And should I make the stream where we'll discuss this video, or maybe I should make my own reaction on that interview, but the video also could be really long. Right guys, I guess that's it for today's video. Sorry for the late update, some of the technical issues I had today, but anyways. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and if you want to support my job, you are very welcome to join me on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below, or you may just press button join for YouTube membership. Thank you guys, you are making this content possible, you're just awesome. And also don't forget to press like to this video, subscribe to the channel. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.